Hello, people of the internet. Sir, the Freedom Astrologer once again here with another video. And this time, I would like to preface this video that this is more for people who are, let's say, new to astrology, more beginners, don't know how to read a chart, are interested in learning to really simply start to take the first steps to what it is and what it means to read a astrological chart and a birth chart or a moment chart or an event chart. Now, if you're already, subscribed to the channel or you've been viewing my videos and you're more advanced and you know this stuff, I mostly, suggest you skip these videos because these are, very, very, beginner stuff. And I don't know how much new stuff there will be for you if you're more experienced in this astrological matters. So in this first video of this series, I'm going to do a lot more of these, and we're going to make them as short as possible, as kind of like quick as possible, so everybody can start quite slow, can dip their feet in, start to see what is what's the wheel, what's the aspects, what are the planets, and how are they relevant for us. But in this first video, we're going to talk about the zodiacal wheel. So when we want to read a chart, we want to know what is on the chart, and we need to understand what the symbols mean and what are the numbers mean, what is the wheel, and how to start interpreting the chart. But basically, I'm going to use the whole sign house system. So I've done a video on this channel also for maybe more advanced users about kind of explaining my viewpoints on Placidus and whole sign. But in the purpose of kind of dipping our feet in, the whole sign is always going to be more easier because the houses are going to be equal sized. It's just easier to start learning and start understanding what this astrology and what this chart reading even is. Now, when let's say you go online, there are a lot of places online when you can enter your birth data or you can enter someone else's birth data. Most often than not, these modern sites use the tropical zodiac. So we're going to also use the tropical zodiac with the whole sign house system. These are we can say maybe the most popular ones. It's debatable which one is more popular, if it's Placidus or whole sign, but usually the tropical zodiac is more often than not used. So when you go to these, I'm using a professional software, SolarFire 9, by the way, but if you're going to go on these sites, you're going to see a bunch of, usually the colors might differ, but, the basics of the chart will be the same. Now, hopefully you can see the mouse, and we're going to start diving in here, what is what and how to start interpreting a chart. So usually it is a wheel, there's not, if you're using the tropical zodiac, it is usually the wheel. Now, the first thing you might notice is the numbers, or are the numbers. So we can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 here on the screen. You might wonder what are these numbers and what these numbers even mean. These numbers represent the houses of the zodiac, or if you're reading a natal chart or birth chart, they represent different parts of a person's life. So, and you might ask why there are 12 houses, but this is a lot to do with the Greeks and how the Greeks, gave us this way of doing things, using the 12 house system, using the 12 zodiacs or constellations as well, which we'll come to in a second as well. And each of these numbers, or you can see the lines here as well, these are, these represent the kind of beginnings and endings of houses. So the first house starts right here, second house, third house, and so on and so forth. So basically what you need to know here, what you need to remember here is each number, these can be, Roman numbers at times as well, but each number represents a house in a chart, in an astrological chart, and each number represents a part of your life, or the house itself represents a part of your life. Now in future videos we're going to talk about what each house means and what certain part of your life that house represents. But in this case we're going to start really slowly and you just say each house or each number on a astrological chart means a part of your life, or is a part of your life, basically. Now the next part you're also going to notice is this weird, at times when you're especially if you're still starting, you're going to notice these symbols and it might even seem strange. Now each of these symbols represents one sign of the zodiac. Most often not you're going to be knowledgeable of the zodiacs, because there's a lot of talk about sun signs, and it's kind of more in modern culture right now. So you're going to know the signs, but you have to also, if you're going to learn to interpret the natal chart, it's all good to know what kind of symbol represents a sign. So let's start from the the first sign of the zodiac right here. In this time it's in the 9th house, but let's, for the sake of our example, let's start here. So Aries is this guy right here, Taurus the next one, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. And you're going to notice, especially at first, some of these are quite similar. Virgo and Scorpio are quite similar. Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and the very last one of the zodiac, Pisces. So I recommend you kind of, once you start to do this and start to look at more charts, you're going to remember this more and more. At first you might, confuse Scorpio for Virgo or whatever, but just, come back to this video and just look at it again, replay it, and these things are going to, be in your brain soon. Now, also, why is this even important? Why are the signs important? Because it's not only the house that kind of gives that part of your life some sort of energy or kind of influences your life. The houses also involve the signs of the zodiac. So each sign is going to be in a house. So now what this actually, you start to notice that each sign will give each house or part of your life some flavor or some kind of influence in your life. Now, what these influences actually are, we're going to also talk about in a later video when we talk about the signs and how they match with the houses and what it means to have, let's say, in this case, you can see in this example, we have Leo in the first house. And what does this mean for a person? And when, let's say, for example, you go to a calculator and enter your details and you see, Leo in the first house, what does this mean? We're going to talk about these things as well. But hopefully you're starting to understand how to put 2 and 2 together. First, the houses, the numbers, and then you're going to see the signs here on, let's say, the left or below or right. Usually they're going to be a little bit on the outside. Sometimes they're inside as well, depending on the software. But somewhere near the number of the house, you're going to see the symbol of the sign. That's pretty self-evident. I think that's pretty simple stuff. Hope you guys get it. If you don't get it, leave me a comment, leave me question there. So next thing is you also might notice these symbols inside the houses. These kind of weird symbolic thingies here. And I'm going to briefly talk about these as well, because these are, we might consider more important than anything I've been even talking about this until this far. But let's start with the AS, or also, sometimes it's AC. This is one of the most important things. This is your ascendant sign. And this is the let's say the symbol AS or AC that symbolizes you as a person, you as your body as well. But there's much more here with the ascendant, but it's important to understand this is a really important angle in a chart, and this is you, AS or AC, ascendant. So the next symbol is going to be let's take DS or DC. This is going to be the descendant. This is going to be the other side, or the people, the partners, the people who are outside of you. Let's put it that way. And also how people perceive you. This is also very, very important angle on a chart. Now let's take the next one, which is MC, which is actually the highest point in a chart. This is the midheaven. So this is a lot to do with your career and mission in life. Again, why are we talking about these angles is because you're going to also see, now we talked about the houses, we talked about the signs, now we're talking about different kinds of symbols. And every time a symbol goes into a house or a sign, it gives the persons, the things I've been talking about, the body or the career or the relationship partners, how others perceive you, a certain kind of flavor. Now, one of the things I don't have on this chart, and usually it depends on the software. Again, it is on a chart, it's called usually IC or IC. So it's always directly opposite of the MC. While MC is the highest point in the chart, the IC or Imenium Coeli, Latin for IC, is the lowest point. Now I say the lowest point, but it usually is, let's say, the most hidden part. When the MC is the most seen part of ourselves, the IC is the most hidden part, the most private part in our lives. And that's why I say the lowest, and because sometimes whenever it is that whatever it is, the lowest is kind of hidden, it's not seen. And this is how we are in our private lives. So these are very, very important angles in a natal chart. So hope you'll getting the drift now, and you start to see what these symbols mean. So there are a lot of symbols you can put on a chart, and depending on different softwares, you can put many symbols on it. But let's talk about the most important right now, and once we go into more difficult topics, more advanced topics, let's bring the other symbols as well. Now we talked about the angles, which are really important. Let's take the more known symbols first, and more bigger, more important ones. Now, most often, this symbol doesn't need much description, but this is the sun. This is again a lot to do with our career, what we want to create in the world. Again, very important. But right now we're not going into too deeply. Again, guys, I want to just reaffirm this. We're not going too deeply into what each, let's say, symbol represents in your life. I'm just going to, give a couple of examples. But we're going to talk about what these symbols are. So this is a very, very basic stuff, but important to understand and important to learn what these symbols are. So this is the sun, you know, quite obvious, but sometimes can be confusing. Moon usually isn't very confusing, but the moon is usually in the shape of the moon in every software I've seen. So it's important to you know, start with these at first, to learn that what these symbols are, and to learn these symbols. The moon is a lot to do with our emotional life, our home life, and what we need emotionally in life. Now the next also very important ones, Mercury, right here, this little guy. I hope you can see this one. Mercury is a lot to do with our thinking, our communication. Now, moving on onwards, Venus and Mars usually are still very kind of self-evident. But Venus here is a lot to do with money, relationships. And now we get to Mars, also quite known symbol, mostly red, you know, as Mars is. Mars is a lot to do with our action taking, how we take action in life, and you know, what we like to do as exercise, for example, just to name a few. And now these are all very important ones, but let's take a couple more, not to go too deep into it, but important to understand at least a couple more of these to start deciphering, and even to kind of start understanding what these symbols are. Because when you don't know the symbols, it really takes a long time. When you know the symbols, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is Mars, you know, you can at least start to Google things, or Venus, or this other, maybe Mercury is not so known as a symbol. Now let's go onwards. We talked about Mars and Venus. Let's go onwards and let's take Jupiter, one of the great, let's say, benefics in astrology, the bringer of luck. You know, the place or the planet that gives us or shows the place where we can derive meaning in our lives and where luck comes to us. But also very important. Hope you can see this one. This usually looks like a number 4, or at least resembles it. Now the next one we're going to look at is Saturn. Saturn is right here. Saturn is, you know, shows where some of the difficulties may come in our lives, but also shows where mastery is required in our lifetimes, where we need to work harder in this lifetime. So I hope you remember. Now it's getting, maybe these symbols are not so widely known. Remember, planet Jupiter, planet Saturn is represented by this. Now let's move onwards, and now we go to the outer planets. And the outer planets, let's start with Uranus, the closest one. Here it's kind of, I think, a lesser known symbol, but Uranus is kind of like where we get flashes of brilliance at times in our lives, where we would like to innovate, where we are quite rebellious at. Let's go onwards and let's take Neptune. Neptune is right here, again a not so known symbol, I think, in my opinion. Neptune it talks a lot about our spiritual gifts. At times it talks also a lot about our confusion in life, where we might be too optimistic. And last but not least, Pluto. Now, Pluto talks a lot about, you know, deep research and transformation, and Pluto maybe is one of the most difficult planets to handle in astrology. But this symbol, maybe every other symbol is quite similar in most softwares. With Pluto, you might see this. I would call this a more traditional symbol for Pluto. But also you can see Pluto as almost like a shape of a P, just a little bit of a different kind of P. The P Pluto is more of a modern representation or a symbol for Pluto. Now, let's take a couple of more, and let's take the rest of the symbols we'll leave for another one, but I want to cover the most important ones. Now, this little guy here, you can see here, is the North Node, and always directly on the opposite side is the South Node. Most often in modern astrology, these are called the South Node and the North Node. These are very karmic influences in our chart. They speak about a lot about what we're here to learn in this lifetime. I've written many articles on these on my website, and I even done a couple of videos on this channel. But in some cases in Vedic astrology, they're going to be called Rahu and Ketu. So hopefully this short video gives you the indication of what these symbols are, what these symbols mean, what the birth chart kind of is, what it represents, what are here, what these numbers mean, what these symbols mean, what these symbols mean, what are the important angles, and we're going to be diving deeper and deeper into it. I know this was very basic stuff, and we're going to just learning about symbols basically, but it's important, guys, to know about the symbols to be able to read a birth chart. So thank you very much for watching, listening, and I hope to see you again in the next how to read your birth chart mini lesson.